Three things that everyone needs to experience at least once before they die. 1. Sleep with as many people as possible. 2. Ski in fresh powder. And number 3, fly. My diplomatic parents are globetrotters. Every 3-4 years, they bring out the bulldozers to uproot and shimmy off to the next destination. And a few years ago, they happily found themselves in Tokyo, Japan. Not one to ever pass up a travel opportunity. However, being quite poor, having just started a new job, and coming from Spain, I found the cheapest flight for my brother Paul and I, in between Christmas and New Year's. Now, Paul is pure talent. He's an amazing actor, pianist, musician, singer, but somewhere in our childhoods, he must have had a lobotomy because he is all right brain. For example, the other day he announces the dryer is broken, but in fact, he just forgot to turn the timer knob. I digress. Our parents, per tradition, from when my brothers and I lived under the same roof, planned a little birthday present ski trip in the Japanese Alps. My mother, who requires a complete story of her own, always finds the most interesting ways to travel. And in this particular instance, she planned the ski trip through the Gaijin Ski Club. Gaijins are foreigners in Japan, so we hopped on a bus with 40-plus foreign devils, all ready to invade a small mountain town of Hakuba. So if no one's been to Japan, you understand it's otherworldly. It is one of the most tight-knit societies, totally different from anything in the West. Tokyo is the largest city in the world, but it also happens to be the cleanest, of course, except for the Gaijin areas. Dirty foreigners. Personal space is sacred above all, and respect is revered. When my father first met his Japanese secretary, she wouldn't stop bowing and taking 2 steps back every time he took a step forward. Along with these traditions, rules are upheld to the umpteenth degree. So as my brother and I found ourselves taking a ski lift over untouched, 3-foot thick, sparkling powder slopes, we determined to be the first to be waist deep in those soft clouds. Only one problem: we had to go under the do not cross ropes. Having skied in various locales around the world and having had broken many ski laws without consequence, I convinced Paul that the reward and accomplishment of skiing the fresh powder and knocking one more thing off Uncle Fred's bucket list, the man that had the list, would outweigh any consequences of being caught. We go under the rope. Halfway down, howling with pure delight, an Australian man from the ski lift yells down to my brother and me, "Watch out! Ski patrol below!" Paul replies, "Are we in trouble?" Question mark. And all we hear is the fading laughter as he travels up the mountain. Lo and behold, at the bottom of the hill, ski patrol's waiting for us. He skis over to where we are, and in quiet, respectful English, he asks us whether we crossed the do not enter rope. And of course we did, but said with as much sincerity as we can muster that we did not. Not buying our story, but feeling sympathetic to our position, he told us, using all his English powers, that he would have to take our electronic passes, but would give us the $10 deposits. As we wait for our deposits to arrive from another ski patrol, a 5'8", pepper-haired, scruffle-bearded, ever so slightly rotund snowboarder, who happened to be the same Australian that warned us and laughed down on us about the ski patrol, apparates with a friendly smile and smirk. "I knew you boys got caught. After this business, come down to the lodge and we'll drink some beers and I'll show you a trick or two." Feeling defeated and deflated because the day just started and abruptly ended, Paul and I sheepishly ski down to the lodge, wondering what we're going to do for the rest of the day. As the Australian mentioned, he was outside the lodge drinking beers with a few of his mates. We saunter over, introduce ourselves, quickly lamenting breaking the rules, and he immediately tells us, "Look, mate, rules are meant to be broken. And because nobody in Japan consistently breaks the rules, except the Yakuza, you can take advantage and get your passes back." He points to the vending machine where the skiers done for the day insert their passes to receive their $10 deposit. He tells us to stand by the machine, out of sight of the ticket office, and ask to exchange our $10 deposit for new passes. Poof! Paul and I have new passes, and are buying beers for the Australian, telling dirty jokes, celebrating fresh powder. We all jump on the lift and shimmy up the mountain. The Australian looks over and says, "I'll show you how it's done. Follow me, boys." We follow him underneath the do not enter rope, and through the trees, shooting out onto the piste seconds before the ski patrol rolls by. We spend the rest of the day shooting in and out of ropes and going down slopes and ropes and slopes and slopes and ropes, never once getting caught. We must have time traveled because before I know it, the day was over and we're in the Australians' mountainside cabin, drinking hot sake, smoking cigarettes, and telling more dirty jokes. Having been in Japan for the last 30 years and skiing in Hakoba for the last 15, the Australian proclaims himself the unofficial mayor of the town. The mayor and his cabinet, a collection of friends from Australia, New Zealand, and the US, invite us to sing our hearts out at live karaoke. But unfortunately, with only enough money to get back to our hotel, a 10-minute taxi ride was $50. We exchange some information and say our goodbyes. Back at the hotel, the Gaijin army, the foreigners, are prepping to invade a local bar 2 miles down the road. Paul and I, regretting being poor and unable to do live karaoke, lock and load and join them. A Bavarian-esque log cabin, decked out top to bottom in taxidermy animals from a different world, big wrought iron chandelier, booty traps hanging from the ceiling, and wild Gaijin animals running in circles. I lose myself in good beer and better conversation. And through the mystical haze of cigarette smoke, my ears perk up at the sound of Spanish. Nostalgically lusting to be back in the rhythm of Spain, I pull up a chair, flip a switch in my head, and start speaking like a filthy-mouthed Spaniard. ¡Picha! ¡Me cago en la puta leche! ¡Este puto país tiene un huevo de polvo de nieve! ¡Buah! Translated, wow, snow is great. Red wine that could have been Tempranillo or not flowed from the mouths of taxidermy animals. I smoke cigarillos like they're state-paid health care, and the Spaniard and I talk well into the witching hour. My brother, glowing, saunters to inform me he is returning for the night. We watch him exit as we light another cigarillo and sip some more wine. A few more moments pass before we gulp our wine, take one more drag, and we exit the Bavarian bar to a world where the moon is sparkling off of every snowflake, trying to fight the darkness beyond the trees. We shatter the serene silence with laughter, trying not to fall on our asses. ¡Hijo de gran puta, me ha caído! Translate, I almost fell. We stroll onto the road and begin walking back to the hotel when out of nowhere from the darkness, two gleaming eyes of a black hatchback vehicle come tearing down the street. And fearing for our lives, the Spaniard and I jump into the snowbank and yell out, ¡Hijo de puta! Translated, excuse me. The car instantly stops. And like the abyss, it's eating all the light around us. I look at the Spaniard, look back at the car, and say, Yakuza? The Japanese barely speak English. How the hell could they have understood Spanish? Walking on ice, half shivering, half trembling, I go to the tinted driver's seat window, afraid to see what's behind it. It rolls down slowly, and staring me dead in the eyes from the darkness is the unofficial mayor of Hakoba. The trunk pops and he yells, "Get in the fucking trunk!" And the Spaniard and I hop into the back of the mayor's hatchback, and he peels out on the icy road, pulling the e-brake as he rounds the corner, kissing the snowbank with his bumper. He must have missed Western food, because the mayor decides to open up a donut shop in the middle of an intersection. Round and round and round we go, only to race off down the street to pretend or not to pretend to hit more pedestrians. I'm uncontrollably cackling with pure delight, terror, floating, I would say flying, thinking to myself that dying now wouldn't be a bad death, at least a good story. I awake on the hard futon of my hotel room with daggers poking out of my eyes. I look over at Paul and recount where I was last night. He looks at me in awe and says, "I wish I was there. I'm gonna tell the story as if I was there." And my brother absorbed every detail I told him that morning. And to this day, he believes he was in the trunk with me, and maybe he was. But one thing is for sure, that's the closest we've gotten to completing Uncle Fred's bucket list. And somewhere on the glistening moonlit street in a small Japanese mountain town, the unofficial mayor of Hakoba is making donuts and terrorizing pedestrians. Thank you.